Alright, let's go. It's time to check out some time-honored classic cartoons, remade into disastrous train wrecks. When a cartoon gets remade, for some reason it is standard practice to put it in the hands of people with absolutely no interest in the original cartoon, even to the point where the new team won't watch a single episode of the original show. Hell, sometimes the teams outright hate the source material and do everything they can to sabotage the original creators, devastating fans in their wake. These reboots range from cheap CG low-budget snorefests to frightfully bad remakes that outright insult the viewers, often being made purely to capitalize on an otherwise good franchise. So let's check out the top 10 worst cartoon reboots. On to the countdown. Number 10. Quack Pack. The ultimate 90s teen corporate pandering machine. Huey, Dewey, and Louie have gone from charming and mischievous woodchucks to just the most outright ugly representations of the 90s ever put to paper.
Someone's been reading self-help books again. Pitiful.
These three are like Johnny Test on steroids. Every mannerism, every single word they speak is a sad, cringe-worthy attempt to appeal to the 90s kids. But to its credit, I actually liked all the adults. Donald is among my favourite cartoon characters, and he's just his charming self throughout the whole series. And Daisy has never been such an interesting, well-developed character. It was a shame all these adult characters were constantly overshadowed by our loud, cool main characters, because that's all 90s kids wanted, wasn't it? To be gnarly and rad. The first episode is about how the boys can avoid cleaning their room. Quack Pack is so pandering that it makes my face hurt. I'd honestly much rather watch Donald duck for 20 minutes than watch these 90s teen sitcom rejects play Who's Got the Ugliest Haircut. And coming in at number 9.
Garfield Show. I don't consider any of these shows reboots or remakes, just spin-offs. Quack Pack is said to be inspired by the original Donald Duck short, and Toby Sheldon, who worked on that show, confirmed this. Lunatics Unleashed is
Powerpuff Girls 2016. Let's start with the elephant in the room, because honestly, it's not the absolute worst. But I can't a reboot that disappointed so many fans of the original series, more than Powerpuff Girls 2016. The main problem I personally found with the cartoon was that it focuses on the three main characters, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, who were the least interesting part of the original cartoon. I watched the original cartoon for characters like the Mayor, Mojo Jojo, him, Fuzzy Lumpkins, and how they worked off the main characters. Many of the episodes seem like a befuddled mess with no real structure or story, often seeming like a random series of jokes and memes.
OMG! Yes!
With Mojo Jojo occasionally popping up with some strange emasculating costume. There just isn't the multi-layered jokes and adult appeal the original had, and that's disappointing. What made the original Powerpuff Girls great was the insightful commentaries, the quick, dark but clever humor, unforgettable side characters and villains. And even if you didn't mind them focusing on the girls, to me, they almost feel identical. By episode 10, Bubbles feels like an almost exact replica of Starfire from Teen Titans Go! Powerpuff Girls is at number 9, because it's certainly not the worst, but in my opinion, Powerpuff Girls 2016 does not do the original cartoon credit. Extreme Ghostbusters, aka Ghostbusters Dark. You can tell it's good because it's extreme. Instead of getting the original cast like in The Real Ghostbusters, this time we get a bunch of hip college kids who are so gnarly that they make me want to burn my local college down.
Real slick, bro.
Who needs those old geezer original Ghostbusters when we have hip, cool college kids? Because, you know, if there's one thing we know, it's that no one misses the original Ghostbusters. Who needs them? A cartoon trying to change up the cast a bit, but they have to make the main characters such raging scumbags?
Back off, Eduardo! Why? She's legal?
The only voice acting I liked was Egon, voiced by Maurice LaMarche, voice of Brain, and once again, the ever-lovely Kath Soucie, voicing Kylie. But aside from that, Extreme Ghostbusters is just another shameless attempt to once again cash in on the Ghostbusters franchise.
Because he calls Extreme Ghostbusters a reboot, when it's clearly a sequel to the original animated series. One watch of the first episode should be pretty damn clear about that.
And for number 7, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I may have adored Sonic.
Right. Alright. Here we go.
Being on here. Well, first of all, how in the blue hell does this count as a reboot in the first place? It's an animated adaptation for the first time ever. This show, whether you like it or not, Phantom, is not a remake of any show beforehand. This show came first before any other Sonic cartoon series was ever made. Before Sonic Boom, before Sonic X, before Sonic Underground, and before the show known as Sonic Sat AM, which aired around about the same time as this show, and that show is not a reboot either. I don't think I need to explain this little detail since it's bloody obvious to...
But damn, this show is just a nonsensical, insane garbage heap. The animation is the laziest DiC Animation has ever done. And that's against some stiff competition for DiC. And the stories are all completely irrational and insane. The challenging part of this cartoon is spotting a character who's not so stupid that they could pass as a village idiot. How did we go from this to this?
Wait, hold up. Let's rewind a little bit here.
How did we go from this to this?
What is going on? Why would you ever...
That point is entirely irrelevant. This is not about video games adaptations list. This is about cartoon quote-unquote remakes. You said it earlier, Phantom, in your video.
It's time to check out some time-honored classic cartoons, remade into disastrous train wrecks. Where's the relation between the two? Both have something that resembles a blue hedgehog.
I'm waiting.
Some people say that Sonic Underground is worse, but at least that had an original story and concept, and variety in their cast, and acceptable animation.
Oh boy. Okay, a few things. Number 1. Sonic Underground may have had an original concept, however, it was also influenced by Sonic Sat AM after a group of writers was told to use that single episode of that series as a background instead of creating its own identity, and added music which was made solely so that DiC could earn royalties by putting one song in every episode. Ben Hurst, one of the writers on that show, gave an interview about it, link below. Also, Sonic Underground repeats some of the same stories from other Sonic cartoons, and even its own series. There's simply no excuse for that. It may have had an original concept to you, Phantom, but it recycles the same old shit that we have seen before and cannot make its own identity by using Sonic Sat AM as a platform. Number 2. They never intended in actually planning an ending where Sonic's siblings finally meet their mother to overthrow Robotnik. You know, the entire point of this series? Hell, Adventures at least ended on a goodbye, and Sonic Sat AM ended its first story arc with a build up to more story. But Underground?
Nope.
They don't even complete theirs. And this was a series that clearly had an ending in sight. Number 3. Acceptable anime. Oh, I'm sorry, but I cannot say that with a straight face. You do know this cartoon is infamous about its shoddy animation, right? Here's an example.
Need a hand? Ah, just a little joke there.
What? What? Whoa! Whoa!
Ah! Why'd you save me? Let's talk, bud.
And that was just one example. There are many mistakes made in this series because Hong Ying Animation for some reason didn't care enough while working on this show. This here is a contender for some of the worst animation that Dick has ever produced, alongside the wacky world of Tex Avery, and guess who also worked on that show? Number 4, variety in the cast. My ass! 3 of the main characters are voiced by Jill White, and watching Sonic Underground, yes, I have watched Sonic Underground. I could have sworn I was hearing Maurice LaMarche voice a few more characters, and not only was I right, I was shocked to find out how many he voiced. Maurice LaMarche voiced at least 10 characters in this show, and he's not the only one who voices more than 5 characters. Gary Chalk voices 7 characters, and Tabitha St. Germain, my bae, voices 6 characters. How do I know this? By doing research. And Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is also guilty of having multiple characters voiced by the same person, but not as bad as Sonic Underground. And finally, number 5. Sonic Underground is the 3rd Sonic cartoon series, and it feels more of a reboot than Sonic Sat.AM, and having the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog on this list sticks out for all the wrong reasons, and should never have been considered in the first place, regardless how you feel.
I may have loved this cartoon growing up, but the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog started off bad, got worse around the middle, and the less said about the end, the better. Number 6. Lunatics Unleashed. In the year 2772, in the dark, bleak space future of Acmetropolis. Acmetropolis? Really? Ugh. Anyway, the Looney Tunes are struck by a comet, turning them into extreme super ninja cyber pirate space heroes. I don't know what to make of this. It's like some strange, fevered Looney Tunes nightmare. It's Looney Tunes, except it's not at all funny. Because why would you want to make the Looney Tunes funny?
Well, at least it's better than what she used to call you.
I'm gonna call it right now and say these Looney Tunes are lame. And that's coming from someone who spends his Friday nights watching Let's Plays of 80 Sierra RPGs. And there's little else to say about Lunatics Unleashed. It takes itself far too seriously. The stories are so cliched post-apocalyptic setting that the 20 minutes for these episodes just drags on. The dialogue is as bland as tofu, and the action scenes were just filled with these tormenting, seizure-inducing flashes over and over. Honestly, the only thing I like about these lousy cartoon remakes is that they have kept Robert Paulson in a job for over 2 decades. And he deserves it, but this cartoon does not.
Lunatics Unleashed is far from the original Looney Tunes short. It's set in the future, is more action-packed than comedy, and these characters are not the Looney Tune characters, just like the Tiny Toon Adventures characters, which he does mention later, and I will get to that. And the
5th worst cartoon remake is The Garfield Show. I loved Garfield growing up, and used to repeatedly watch Garfield specials from the video store every week. But how did they manage to botch up Jim Davis's simple, lovable, Monday-hating lazy boy this bad?
And the Garfield Show, honestly, I class that more as an adaptation of the comics, like the Garfield Show. And if this was a reboot, where's Orson's Farm? That was part of Garfield and Friends as well. And while I'm talking about the Garfield Show, there's a line Phantomstrider says at the beginning, and he completely contradicts himself. Back onto my point about remakes not having anyone from the previous series. Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield, worked on this show. And one of the main writers of the Garfield and Friends show, Mark Evanier, also worked on this show. And no! Phantom doesn't mention any of this when he's talking about this show, and I know for a fact that he did no research when he talked about this show. He is...
And he even managed to fuck that up. The way he...
The ugly CG on Garfield's show reminds me of Fanboy and Chum Chum. Cheap, lazy, and obnoxiously kid-friendly. Sometimes, Garfield will randomly go cross-eyed. No particular reason, just because the Korean sweatshop animators were on a strict deadline to get these 3D papery spherical abominations back to the studio.
This show is made in France, not Korea. One quick Google search can tell you that.
The Garfield Show. Oh, so this is the culprits behind this hideous abomination. The horrible, plasticky, terrible CG. The unfunny groaner dialogue. While Jim Davis had some creative direction in all the original cartoons, hell, he made some of them, this CG cartoon 9-car pile-up is just a big middle finger to Jim Davis.
Then she switches.
They're showing him off! You really are that stupid, aren't you? You can't...
The Garfield Show was the best example of a cheap CG remake cash-in that I could think of. While I really enjoy a lot of Jim Davis's original Garfield cartoons, I keep thinking these bizarre CG transfusions are gonna eat my soul. All of Garfield's original cynical personality is gone, replaced with a strange orange CG lump of Play-Doh with no distinct personality whatsoever beyond liking lasagna. Whenever I hear Garfield talk in this cartoon, I keep getting this strange urge to step on him.
It asked me if it was, and then had like a mouth and it was talking.
The new generation...
How everyone feels about you. I mean, I know you were trying to go for comedy there, but everyone goes to your videos with the immediate assumption that they're going to come across something inherently stupid, and it really didn't get you anywhere.
A bit of the original Garfield's charming cynicism. I do still recommend Garfield and Friends if you can find it. The number. Teen Titans Go. How can we not talk about this one? Has there ever been a bigger middle finger to its predecessor than Teen Titans? We have directors who openly admit that they know what they're making is stupid, but that's okay, because it's only for kids. It's like the creator is fueled by the hatred of fans, drawing upon it to make his cartoons stronger.
It has been the good life.
I often wonder if the creator was just an internet troll who wanted to make a bunch of Teen Titans fans furious. So he created the ultimate dump on a classic cartoon. What remains mind-boggling about this franchise is that it wasn't just a cheap knockoff of the originals. It was like the creators were going out of their way to destroy everything the original characters were. Sophisticated stories, complex characters, sharp action scenes. Forget all that. We have toilet jokes. And just for the hell of it, they decided to cross over with a new Powerpuff Girls series. Because why not? We've truly eviscerated any dignity our own franchise might have once had. Why not spread our path of destruction onto another classic franchise that is already struggling to be remade properly? Mentioned, some of the new episodes are showing markable improvements, but they're still outnumbered by the sheer vapid stupidity. It's not a harmful show or anything, but it's just so stupid. And the third worst.
Thirdly, the Powerpuff Girls 2016 and Teen Titans Go. No. I am not defending either of these shows. I don't like either of them. I agree with both of these being on here, and they're the only ones that I do. Teen Titans Go has left such a bad taste in my mouth, I refuse to watch that show anymore. I know there have been some good episodes here, but I can't bring myself to watch it because their damage has already been done. As far as I'm concerned, it's dead to me. And the
remake is Tom and Jerry Kids. Frankly, just the kids concept in general. Tom and Jerry Kids, Muppet Kids, Flintstone Kids, Looney Tunes Kids, and any kids franchise. For the longest time, you could not escape these cartoons. They were like a bad smell, emanating their stench through every single child's channel. Nothing made me want to play outside more than watching these unfunny, contrived snore fests. Whenever a network adds kids to the end of a cartoon title, I immediately think a cheap cash grab to capitalize on a younger demographic that doesn't know any better. I've never actually seen a kids franchise that actually made me laugh. Unless you count maybe Tiny Toons? But even when that's good, it's still a lot more mediocre than the original Looney Tunes. Tiny Toons was definitely the best of them though. Every kids franchise had the same stupid formula. Drop the animation budget so low that only under 5s wouldn't find the visuals insultingly ugly, and throw out a bunch of contrived stories and zero-brain side characters with no memorability whatsoever. As long as they're capitalizing on the original cartoons, who cares? After all, it's only kids. Here's an idea. Why not Tom and Jerry adults? Fortunately, this kids habit died out quickly after the 90s.
They're one.
How fucking awesome.
So the movie starts
of shows that include Tom and Jerry Kids, Tiny Toon Adventures, Flintstone Kids, Yo Yogi, Looney Tunes Kids, and Muppet Kids. Number 1, it's Muppet Babies and Baby Looney Tunes, not Muppet Kids or Looney Tune Kids. How do you screw that up? Number 2, Muppet Babies and Tiny Toon Adventures are in different leagues with these other shows. Muppet Babies wasn't made for the novelty of making the characters young, but it was also made for the power of their own imagination, which is what copycats such as Tom and Jerry failed at by having them themselves, but as younger and don't do much with the idea. I mean, what's the difference between the original Tom and Jerry and this younger counterpart? And Tiny Toon Adventures, the main characters, they are not the Looney Tunes. They are slightly inspired from the original characters, and the original Looney Tunes are present throughout the show. You even have this present in your own video. And number 3, none of these shows are actually reboots, they're spin-offs. Seriously, Phantom, this is one of the major problems with this list. You have no clue what the hell a reboot is. Most of these choices aren't remakes or reboots, they're either spin-offs, adaptations, or in Ghostbusters' case, sequels. And what here exactly counts as a reboot to qualify in the first place? This is such a major grey area here. To quote the comment Pie Guy Rules posted in Manga's video, the lines between remakes, spin-offs, and sequel series is a little blurry. It would have been much better off claiming this list was all about the above and not just strict remakes. And if that was the case, that would have solved the few problems with this list had, but not all of them. And these last two, I've put off long enough. The last two,
The second worst cartoon remake is
Yo Yogi, yo, yo, yo.
Yo Yogi. Oh come on, really? Yo Yogi? I admit, I'm not a Hanna-Barbera fan, but Yogi Bear really was a boring cartoon to begin with.
Come on, let's do our Starving Bears act, boo-boo.
Pretty much every single episode consisted purely of Yogi seeing a picnic basket and somehow aggravating the local park ranger. It wasn't a hard fall.
Tell me about it. Shut up.
But this
formula to remake. So how did they mess it up this bad? Yo Yogi is just everything bad about the 90s. Yogi Bear is cool now. As long as your definition of cool is your grandma wearing a sombrero. How do Yogi Bear and skateboards have anything in common? At least Quack Pack kind of made sense in its 90s pandering dribble. This is just the literal dictionary definition of 90s pandering. Yo Yogi is the devil's anus of bad. Let's make the already bland Hanna-Barbera cast trendy and hip by giving them all the latest in skin-tight volleyball equipment.
This is nothing but a little fashion statement. I call it for the zone.
Yogi Bear looks like he's trying to pull off a drag queen act. Yo Yogi was so badly received that Hanna-Barbera never produced another Yogi Bear cartoon ever again afterwards. Because this is the kind of cartoon that Joseph Barbera would come back from the dead to stop. Chances are he saw this and rose from the grave just to shut down the deformed, hideous, lurching pile that Hanna-Barbera has become. Goodbye, Yogi Bear, and good. And before we get to number 1, I'd like to give a few quick, dishonorable mentions. Rugrats All Grown Up. I could personally never watch a full episode of this remake. While I realize it would be tough to follow up from the only Nickelodeon cartoon as popular as SpongeBob, how could Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil possibly grow up to be so incredibly boring? Even Angelica seemed to lose all her tenacity in life, instead just being a passive-aggressive teenage girl. Teen Titans Go and Powerpuff Girls crossover. This is going to sound odd, but this was actually really good. Like, really well put together and funny. Wonderfully self-aware, quick jokes, and actually kind of clever. I actually recommend this crossover. It's episode
with sex. They just obliterate her enemies.
Let's just take a listen to that one more time.
But these sex
Teen Titans Go and Powerpuff Girls crossover. This is going to sound odd, but this was actually really good. Like, really well put together and funny. Wonderfully self-aware, quick jokes, and actually kind of clever. I actually recommend this crossover. It's episode 40, season 3.
What the fuck? That would be like
Yep. Earlier in the video, it was a bad thing that these two shows were together. And later on in your dishonorable mentions, it's a good thing these two shows are together. Phantom, I don't know if you're aware of this when you were making this list, but you indirectly contradicted yourself here. Also, nice job on having this episode as your thumbnail for this video. I don't want to accuse you of being a clickbaiter, Phantom, but appearances can be deceiving.
It's actually amazing to me that someone can literally directly contradict what they're saying and not have the fucking ability to see that what they're saying is inherently stupid. Wow, that's actually...
Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon. Oh no, I am not touching this thing again. The only reason it's not on the list is because it doesn't deserve any more attention. Live-action cartoon remakes. These are probably getting their own list because they take up the whole list otherwise. And jeebus, some of these. Worst cartoon remake is every single Scooby-Doo remake for the last 40 years. I am...
Wait, what?
I'm far more frightened of the far right than...
Worst cartoon remake is every single Scooby-Doo remake for the last 40 years. I am...
Isn't. The last episode is the one that really made me blow a gasket.
So sick of Scooby-Doo. Every repetitive, stupid reiteration of this annoying mutt. To say Scooby-Doo has overstayed his welcome is the understatement of the century. Scooby-Doo hasn't just overstayed his welcome. He's kicked the house owners in the nads, parked himself in their living room for over 30 years, and sleeps with the house owner's wife every night. I guess.
Scooby-Doo is number one. Not a particular show involving Scooby-Doo, not one single series of Scooby-Doo, just everything Scooby-Doo. I don't know how to describe this. Lazy? Half-assed? Oh wait, I have the perfect word to describe this choice. Arrogant! I think it's pretty obvious here that Phantomstrider hates Scooby-Doo, but putting all of Scooby-Doo as number one, that is fucking lazy. So,
I cannot think of another cartoon that has just so refused to die. Because why would you want to make the Looney Tunes only kids? Here's an idea. Why not Tom and Jerry adults?
Lazy. So why is this show number one? Why is this worse than kiddie-fied versions of original shows? Why is this worse than Teen Titans Go that have told their critics, no, you're wrong? The reason? It's because it's been going on for a long time. Wait, what? How ironic this is coming from someone who's a Simpsons fan. But wait a second, if this is about shows that have been long running, doing the same old shit for a long time, wouldn't Tom and Jerry also apply here as well? Hell, that show's been around even longer than Scooby-Doo, and they've had some awful reimaginations during their time. Just for the record, I don't hate Tom and Jerry, I'm just making an example here.
How do they keep remaking these second-rate cartoons? And each one is just as humdrum, uninspired, tedious and monotonous as the last. The original
interacting with those layers.
What a load of utter bollocks.
Every single show is the same as the last, and that is pure bullshit. If you look at some of the other series that have been around, they are not all the same. Look at the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. That series has the Scooby Gang accidentally releasing 13 ghosts and they have to catch them all, and they're not just some arsehole in a mask, they're actually ghosts. And then there's the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show. That changes the formula by having Scooby, Shaggy and Scrappy facing ghosts, monsters and aliens. I know, right? And oh yeah, there's also Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which, yes, I'll admit, uses the same formula of solving mysteries, but it actually had an overarching story and a twist on the classic series. So no, not every single series is the same as the other.
The original cartoon was nothing special. It was a pretty standard Laurel and Hardy setting, with some boring teens solving mysteries through scientific reasoning.
And nothing special when it came out. Oh yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of shows like Scooby-Doo when it debuted in 1969, in an era where bitchy parents complained about violence in cartoons.
My God! There are over 90 remakes of this lurching monstrosity. I am dead freaking serious. Scooby-Doo Goes to Hollywood. Aloha Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy-Doo. A pup named Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword. The freaking Samurai Sword. The new Scooby-Doo. The new Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo Gets a Clue. Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Scooby-Doo meets Batman. What does...
From me. And that explains your lack of research. Jesus Christ.
Batman. What?
And it's at this point here, it has become unconditionally clear that Phantomstrider doesn't know what the fuck a remake is. Let's start from the beginning. 90s shows? You heard that clearly. He said 90. While I admit there have been a lot of Scooby-Doo shows, but there haven't been a total of 90 of them. And because of the poor research done in this video, I actually counted how many they were. And they are, as of to date, according to Wikipedia, 12 TV series and 6 package shows, which 2 of them actually had recycled some of their other work from other shows. So that's a total of 16 actual shows. But for some reason, you've included Aloha Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword in the inclusion of this? What?! You included the direct-to-video movies on here? Why would you include the direct-to-video movies on here? That's not making your point come across, that's making you even more incompetent! But for argument's sake, let's add the movies together with the TV shows. and we have the following. We have 12 TV series, 4 package shows that don't include reruns, 13 made-for-TV movies that are solely Scooby-censored, 27 currently released direct-to-video movies, and 4 live-action movies. So that's a grand total of 60, not 90! I've done the math. If you said over 50, I would have probably accepted that. But because how poor you've been in this video, Phantom, and shown very poor knowledge, I've had to count them. But what about just the actual TV shows for more argument? I counted them all together as well, and doing the math all together, that's a grand total of 350 episodes. And The Simpsons have had more episodes than that. They've had over 600 episodes and counting. And that show has outstayed its welcome a lot more than Scooby-Doo. And finally, my last thing. Why are you counting the movies as remakes in the first place? They're spin-offs! All of them are spin-offs! They have nothing to do with their TV shows chronologically. How do you screw this up so badly? No one would do.
Does any kid actually sit down and go, "Oh wow, Scooby-Doo is on"? Scooby-Doo is just pure cartoon white noise. Kids will have it on in the background because there is no other cartoons on TV at the time. It is the most
You know,
This should not be being legitimised. I can't believe I even have to say those words. What the fuck, Netflix? If you hadn't noticed, by this point I'm all out of jokes. There's nothing inside me but pure rage.
A Hurts So Good anime. It remains my favorite series of all time out of over 140 anime I have finished. Hurts So Good? Happy ending the viewer desperately wants? Well, I guess I am the only one who doesn't see the appeal or understand why it's so good. Makes me wonder what kind of person I am now that I see the majority really
most bland, redone standard cartoon formula in existence. At least Teen Titans Go has a more creative concept and hasn't been repeated for over 40 years.
let's see. What the fuck? Are you...
That's like saying you're more frightened of a teacup chihuahua than a rabid, hungry, wild wolf. You complete fucking moron.
Nobody.
Eggle, so fucking stupid.
The Scooby-Doo franchise is the most shameless cash cow ever conceived by man.
Math altogether, that's a grand total of 350 episodes. And The Simpsons have had more episodes than that. They've had over 600 episodes and counting. And that show has outstayed its welcome a lot more than Scooby-Doo. And finally,
most of the Hanna-Barbera remakes died out in the 90s, but somehow kids just kept watching this thing.
His face looks like a bitch, but not just that. He actually is a bitch. I want to slap the fuck out of this cunt.
I never want to hear that stupid catchphrase from that grating voice again. Scooby-Dooby-Doo! There's no particular Scooby-Doo remakes that are worse than the last. They're all bad.
Again, you're a fucking moron.
Shaggy and Scooby Get a Clue and Be Cool Scooby-Doo are just this generation's current bland reiterations of that stupid brown. The only mystery left in Scooby-Doo is how does this series still keep going? Just bad dog, bad dog. Go home and never ever return.
The app You motherfucking cocksucking goddamn mother piece of shit!
But cartoon remakes actually have the potential to be something really amazing, despite the
Stupid! That's it. I can't do this anymore. Goop.
Just fuck this episode. Fuck everything about it. It is just so much worse than how I remember it and is without a doubt in the top 3 absolute worst episodes of The Nostalgia Critic. From the
Now for my final thoughts. Phantom, I seriously don't want to hate your videos. You have made some good videos that I've liked, but this one was awful. It's just terrible. You don't know the difference between a remake to a spin-off or a sequel. You barely know some of the source material covering. You unintentionally contradict yourself with the Powerpuff Girls and Teen Titans Go crossover. And the Sonic Scooby-Doo choices just come across as petty and extremely lazy. I'm sorry.
At the latest. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Go watch furry porn or something.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now!